hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome back to another edition of Our Girls Play Hockey. It's Lee Elias with Mike Bonelli and Hayley Scamurra here today, and we thought it would be fun, to go online and say, hey, who's got questions for Hayley? And, we think we'll get a few, right? We'll get 4 or 5, enough to do an episode. Well, 25 questions later, because of you, we've got to do 2 episodes now. 2 mailbag episodes because Hayley's so popular that you want to ask her a bunch of questions. Joking aside, pretty incredible stuff. We put that post out less than 24 hours ago. Less than 24 hours ago when we're recording this. And I say 25 questions. Some of you asked 3 or 4 questions. It's actually more than 25. But Hayley, this is the pro life. This is the pro life. You're a pro athlete. You're an Olympic, Team USA athlete. This is the pro life. You got to deal with it. I'm sorry, but you have to deal with it.
No, I love it. I can't wait to answer the questions. It's fun to see a lot of the kids have such simple but complex questions too. So I'm ready to dive in.
I'm ready to do it too. And I'm going to say this again to the audience listening. We are going to actually divide this up into a few different episodes. We've looked at all the questions. We are going to ask every question that was submitted. We're not leaving any of them out. But we did find that the themes for the questions were kind of Hayley's journey to being a pro athlete and then the life of a pro athlete as the other one. So today's about the journey, all your questions about the journey and kind of how maybe your journey as well at home. And then the next mailbag episode, which will be very soon, will be about life as a pro, which apparently, 4 million questions is part of it. Obviously, if you can't sense my sarcasm, gang, we're flattered by this. This is pretty awesome. All right. So let's dive in with the first question from Harper, who is 9 years old. How did you go from being a 9-year-old hockey player all the way to a pro? No pressure, Hayley. Just tell us everything you know.
I loved that question because she's 9, right? I just love it. But when I was 9 years old, what was I doing? I think I was playing boys hockey at the time with my dad was the coach. At that point, just having fun. You're not thinking about anything else. I did put that my dream was to be an Olympian, but it's not like I went to the rink every day and was, grinding every single day to become an Olympian. It was enjoyable. I had fun with my teammates. I enjoyed the process. That's what it's all about in the long run.
Did you write it down? Did you I love that you said that's your goal, but was there a place you had that?
Well, yeah, actually. And we had little booklets that we made for our travel teams. I don't know if people do that anymore.
Yeah.
And all the boys, they had their dream was to be an NHL player and mine said to be an Olympian. So it was really cool to look back on and see when I made the first Olympic team. My dad had found that and taken a picture. So.
No, that's awesome. And I think now, and I think, based off of Lee too, just the questions that you'll get, right, are always about the journey and the secrets and all these little things what can I do to replicate what she did? And sometimes it's as simple as, well, just got to work harder than everyone else. But I think Kaylee has a really good question. I love this as a recruiter too, is, how did you actually get to where you're at? Did you reach out to Team USA? Was it through the PWHL? Were you selected from your college program? What was the process of getting to where you're at right now?
That's a great question because mine's definitely a unique journey. So they have camps for USA Hockey all throughout travel hockey days. I didn't make a camp. I think when I was 15 years old, I stopped making USA camps. So I was kind of off their radar, if you will. And it was definitely frustrating. Even throughout college, wasn't making any rosters to even try out for the team. And I remember being really frustrated about that. And that's when I ended up seeing a sports psych when I was in college. And he gave me the great advice to just focus on the team you're playing for, be the best you can be for them. And then whatever comes will be meant for you. And I really took that to heart. It helped take all the pressure off because I think I was just putting so much pressure on how I was performing in order to reach that goal. When in fact, I was playing Division I hockey on a full ride scholarship. That in itself is also incredible. So it's enjoying where you're at and not always feeling like you have to keep climbing that ladder necessarily, but you're always still working on your craft.
I love that you're mentioning it. It had nothing really to do with your physical ability. It was more between the ears. It was what can I do to help me get over this little hump of getting to where I want to get to? And it has nothing to do with because could you maybe on a side note, everyone at that level is so good, right? Everyone's good. So it's what are you doing differently to separate yourself from the pack. And it sounds like it was really more your own mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, then I started to play pro hockey for the Buffalo Buttes and for my hometown. And that's when I got noticed by USA Hockey by a scout and was invited to my first USA camp since I was 15. So I think I was probably 24 at the time. So almost 9 years later, I finally got to like that USA camp. And then that's when I started making the roster. But I think the biggest thing was that I just played my game the whole time and they wanted me for that. And I felt that what I brought, not a lot of other people brought, in terms of on ice, like physicality and intensity and passion and energy. And that's what I focused on. And that's what they ended up needing.
Awesome.
You know what I'll say too, Hayley, and for those of you who maybe haven't seen Hayley play, your role is so clear when I see you play. Do you know what I mean by that?
Mm-hmm.
And like that's one of the things I'm talking kind of as a fan too here, but like that's one of the things that makes you a special player. Is it's very clear what your role is, right? And you've identified that and got in touch with that. The other thing about your answer that's really important, and Mike and I are going to have to be old heads here for a minute, but we're at the point of our hockey life where we can reflect on really our entire playing time. And what you said about being present is such a key for everyone. You know, I always tell young players, I want you to have the big dreams. You should totally have the big dreams, but the work for the dream takes place in the moment, like the right now. And you can't disassociate from that too much, because you guys have all heard this. It's so cliche. It's over before you know it. It's super duper true. Right. And it's like, if I could go back and do one thing differently, I would have probably been even more present in certain moments than I was then. Because sometimes the chase is more, like you said, it's a lot of anxiety with that. When it's like, man, you're doing, I love these. I'm a Division I athlete on a full ride. Like, yeah, you got to enjoy like that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to enjoy that. And, I think the fear sometimes is maybe I'll get cocky or maybe I'll get a big head if I do that. And if you're doing it right, that actually won't happen. You'll probably increase, as you said, you'll increase your ability to perform, right, and understand where you're at. So I have to say that because for all the athletes listening, that is such a key to not just hockey but life in general. You have the time that you have. So, want to move on, or did you have any follow up on that? Sorry, that was a lot.
I think that was it.
Okay, all right, we're moving on here. All right, Liv, 8 years old, with a much more mature question here than an 8-year-old. What are the top 3 things or skills Olympic coaches look for in players? Go.
Oh my gosh.
That's a good question. Liv's going for it. Hayley, Liv's going for it.
That is a great question. I think resilience has to be up there, I would say, and like adaptability in terms of being able to play through tough situations, maybe situations you're not used to playing in. Being able to adapt to those situations is huge. Just being able to do anything for the team, like the selflessness aspect is also massive. When you're on the USA stage, it's like you're with the best of the best, and so you have to be willing to put your ego aside, I think, and do whatever is needed for the team as a whole. And oh man, I think also just hockey IQ for sure is up there. I think that's something that's not necessarily as easy to teach necessarily, especially at that stage. And so I think they're definitely looking for players who know the game well.
Well, and I'll say real quick for those of you listening, you'll notice Hayley's answers was not really great wrist shot. You really need a good wrist shot to make this team. And Mike, you alluded to this earlier, between the ears, right? All 3 of those are between the ears things. It actually makes me have a quick question for you, Hayley. When you are representing the United States of America, how much is there an expectation on the athlete to fully understand that you are representing the United States of America? Because we don't talk about that enough, right? That like, yeah, this is a top team, but there's a responsibility. Like if you're not understanding that, I bet you don't make the team.
Absolutely. And you can kind of tell that, right? When a player is on that team and when they're grateful for the opportunity, when they're humble about it, when they realize the importance of representing the United States, like you can feel that when they're playing and when they're practicing and just 24/7. And I think if someone doesn't have that, it's pretty obvious in terms of the team cohesiveness and things like that.
Yeah, that identity is everything. Sorry, Mike, go ahead. That you made me think of that.
No, I mean, it's an ongoing, dilemma, right? That you're trying to find all those pieces of a team, and sometimes it might not be a particular skill. You mentioned it a little bit about Hayley, about her role, and knowing that she has to play, a certain way for this particular team. And maybe on a different team, right? Hayley had to play a different way. Like, I'm sure your role in college was probably different than your role with Team USA, and it was probably different than your role with the the midget AAA team.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's all of us, when we're teaching athletes, that to me is one of the harder parts about coaching is to relay the message and get the message across to athletes that there are different roles on a team, and then you have to accept those roles.
And they're all equally important, regardless of the role. They're all super important for that team success.
Yeah, and we talked on a recent episode about this too, Mike, that it's okay to tell kids their roles, and I tell coaches all the time, but everyone has to have a role. You can't just be like, these are the 4 scorers, the rest of you figure it out. Like right. you can't do that, right? Like everyone has a role. And Hayley, I love what you said there. And again, for those of you watch Hayley play, her role is you don't need to watch her play long to understand her role. All right. She has a very clear role on these teams that she plays on. So go ahead, Mike.
And you can't have 5 first-line centermen anyway, right? So somebody has to do something else.
Yeah.
So this question is from Bennett, age 11, and I love this, is what's the biggest thing that separates good players from great players?
These questions are insane. This is incredible.
You asked for them.
They're gonna scroll these in the hallway during tryouts. I think they're just gonna be like, listen, scroll these questions, listen to the answers. Bennett wants to know what's the biggest thing that's going to separate all those good players that are out there from somebody you deem like, wow, that's a great player.
I really go back to the mental side of things, and I also think just like that relentless work ethic, I think can get you really far as well.
Hayley, that's not a bad answer. No, you're also very humble. You are a great player.
Thank you.
You're also a great teammate. You're a great person. You're a great teacher. I mean, you're great at everything you do. I know people in your position usually have a hard time taking those types of compliments, but it's true, right? And again, what makes Hayley great, Ben, not that I'm answering for Hayley, but what makes her great is that you do everything great. Like the relentlessness, Hayley, for you is not limited to you on the ice, right? Now your playing style is visibly relentless, but you're doing a podcast. You are relentless with wanting to be great at this podcast. You are relentless with everything that you do. I see the way that you teach the people in your community. You're relentless for them, right? So, it's a great question. Again, your answer is right on point. It's just everything, right? It's being relentless with everything. So.
And it's a funny answer too, because what Bennett's asking, because I think the coaches that recognize great players know that those great players don't think they're great.
It's true.
Like the fact that the great player is like, oh, oof. Like, have you ever heard like an interview of an early like Wayne Gretzky or like an early star in the game where they're like, my teammates are helping here, and like, well, I don't know. I think it's just like, I think that's one of the qualities of being from a good to a great player is you're a great teammate. I think what Lee talked about, and by the way, every pro athlete we've had on has always resonated to just be a great person.
100%.
And you exude the fact that you're a great player just by your work ethic and all the things you're doing. So I think if I'm Bennett, I watch some film, I watch a little Team USA, and I say, wow, those are all great players. All those little pieces I can take and do something, with my career. Yeah,
100%, dude. And the analogy I always like to give, Mike, it's in the same family, is like captaincy. I will have young players say, hey, how do I get the C? I want the C. And I'll say, if you need the C, you probably shouldn't have the C, right? It's in the same vein of that. Like, captains don't need the C to be a captain, right? If you're a leader, just lead. You don't need a letter to lead.
Yeah.
All right. It's an honor. Don't get me wrong. It's an honor. And I know there's a lot of fanfare around having a letter on your jersey, but most, if not all, the captains I've met at the pro level, they're not doing it for the C. Right. They're just doing it because that's who they are as a person, and often sometimes surprised. Hayley, I'm not going to lie to you. That question was really hard. This next one's probably even harder. Okay, so and this is a really, really good question. Isabella wants to know, what's the one habit you had to unlearn to get better? That's a great question.
Oh, thank you, Isabella. I think this is something I'm constantly learning, but I've been thinking about it. Luckily, you gave me a little preview for this question because I did need some time to think
that
about
one was
it. Like,
hard.
truly,
I was like, yeah, you can have that one.
It's a really good question. And I kind of came to the conclusion, for me, it was about learning that mistakes are okay, and they're more than okay. They're actually what make you better. And they're just opportunities to continue to grow and perfect your craft. Cause like, I remember just being so frustrated about making mistakes, and I'm watching an NHL game and there's mistakes every single second in the game. Like, that's the whole point of the game. Like, you're just capitalizing on the other team's mistakes, and it's like a constant cycle of it. Right. And so, we get really hard pressed and feel like we have to be perfect out there, when in reality, that's just not the game of hockey. That's not why we love the game. The game is a game of mistakes, and it's okay to make them.
You know, what's funny about that, Hayley, what you just said is we recently interviewed Pavel Barber. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yes. And we were joking that we should make an Instagram or YouTube channel of just the mistakes that happen in pro hockey. The funny part would be, as you just alluded to, there would be about 6,000 videos a day. And I think it's a great point that you're bringing up. Now, here's another kind of part to this question. I think it's important, if you're comfortable answering it, right? When did you realize this, and what did you do to unlearn it, right? Because like you've mentioned what it was that had it to be unlearned, but I'll ask you. I don't know. Was it a snap of the fingers and it's like, okay, I've got that, or did this take time? You still working on it?
Still working on it. I think probably didn't realize it was something I had ingrained in me until probably 3 or 4 years ago, if I'm being honest. I think I always saw it as just, oh, I just want to be perfect, and I never really saw it as like I was afraid of making mistakes. But that's what I've kind of realized in the last few years, is that's sometimes how I would end up playing, is just playing it safe and not just throwing the puck away, or like not wanting to try to make a play, just do the safe play. And it's like, that's not the fun way to play the game. It's more fun to like go try things, to go mess up a few times, to then create more chances and for your team. So that's what I'm still continuing to learn, because I definitely still get hard on myself sometimes when when I do make a mistake, and have to remind myself that it's okay.
I'm going to pull the thread one more time. Sorry, you're in a wheelhouse for me that I'm genuinely curious, Hayley, about like what I'm going to ask here. So, and these answers are fantastic, right? It's kind of a two-parter. All right, one is that I think you've already alluded that this is something you wish you had a grip on much younger, right? I know there are going to be players out there that say, yeah, but that drive, that me being hard on myself is why I'm getting better so quickly. So I want to make sure we're like explaining here that you're able to still get the same outcome, even though you are not killing yourself mentally. I think it's so important, especially the younger players, understand that is possible. There's this fear of like, oh, if I don't beat myself up, I'm not going to get better. I got to tell y'all, it's not true. All right. That's not true. Hayley, so do you see what I'm trying to get to?
I see exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
So you can still acknowledge that there was a mistake made, if you will, right? That there was an opportunity there that you can improve on without beating yourself up over it, without saying, I'm a terrible hockey player. It's like all about like that positive self-talk after that mistake is made, I think is the huge shift that you need to make, because it's still identifying it, because that's how you learn from it.
Right.
Is to identify it and then fix it and keep improving from there.
Right. It's not about ignoring.
But
I love that.
Exactly.
Right.
I think Bennett got really busy with the mailbag, and she had another question here for us, because she's right. And at 11 years old, I'm imagining these players, right, at 11, 12, 13 years old, are right at the age of, oh my God, like people are watching me, and I notice when I make a mistake, and I notice when other people acknowledge my mistake, and it's hard. It's a hard time in growing up, like that 11 to 15-year-old age group. And, you're not like an 8-year-old where you don't care and nobody notices, right? But now you're in the wheelhouse. And I think just based off of, how you've reacted, Hayley, on your evolution as a player, like how Bennett's question is, how do you work on your mental game?
I think you can also work on your mental game by helping your teammates as well. So, like, if you do see they make a mistake and they're maybe being hard on themselves, you can be there to support them.
Yeah.
And then in doing that, you can kind of see how you can support yourself when you are making those same mistakes. Because in reality, everyone's making mistakes out there. It's not just people you're watching. You're making mistakes too, and it's all okay. And that's also in being a good teammate and things like that.
Yeah, I laugh because you're too young for this, but for the parents that are listening to this with their kids, if you remember the old People magazine, and they used to have a layout of like celebrities, they're just like us.
They're
Like
just-
they shop and
They brush their teeth.
Mistakes. You know, and I
Yeah.
think it's the same thing. Like, hey, pro athletes, they're just like us. They make mistakes. They reflect on
Mhm.
things that happened great and things that didn't go so well. But they also get to look down the bench and be like, oh, that's my teammate. My teammate's
Mhm.
hurting. And guess what? I am hurting in those situations too. But it's actually, you know, I love how you phrase that, because I think sometimes it takes you not being the one making the mistake to recognize how you react to your own mistakes. Like, because when you're in the moment, you're just emotional. But I think being able to be like, you're outside of that emotion, you're able to look at your teammates like, hey, you could really handle it this way. And that was a great try. And we'd love to see you do that again. And then hopefully you sit back on the bench and go, now I got to remind myself to do that too.
Right. Yeah. You know, Mike, I'm going to add on to that because it's funny. I feel like as coaches, and kids, this does apply to you too. There was a period of when I was coaching early on, so 20 years ago, where there was a lot of, I'll say, ego in, I'm going to teach you everything I know. I want to share everything. It's a good type of thing. Like, I want to share what I know, but there wasn't too much return. Like, I wasn't opening myself up to keep learning. It was all about, you know, there's an ego there. I want you to know how smart I am and how much I know. And Hayley, what I love about your answer is that it's a shared two-way thing, right? And where I'm at now as a coach is I still love learning. I'll learn from anybody. I'll learn from the kids. I'll learn from Hayley. I'll learn from Mike. It's very much transaction now in the sense of I'll take anything you can teach me. And the beautiful part of the game, Mike, we talked about this earlier today, is that the game's always evolving. So whatever I knew when I was playing, we'll just say 30 years ago, is, you know, prehistoric now. And it's like, if I don't open my mind up to learn today's game, which is very different, I'm actually failing as a teacher too. So from a mental standpoint, Hayley, I love that answer because the pursuit of knowledge is a part of that mental game. And I think that the kids, or anyone, this is not even limited to kids, anyone who's willing to open themselves up to learn and learn a lot and learn very quickly, you're going to have a massive advantage.
Mhm.
And I imagine, Hayley, again, at the pro level, everyone's doing anything they can to learn. Like that's a whole nother episode right there. We don't talk about that enough. Trying to learn as much as you can, right? Because learning something new for you could be a game changer.
Mhm.
So anyway, I wanted to make sure we dive on that. All right. The next 4 questions
Mhm.
are about kind of the current state of women's hockey. These are some really great questions. Okay. So not so much like just your pro experience, but where women's hockey is at today. So this next question comes from Claire, and she says, how do you think the PWHL has changed the future of women's hockey and attitudes towards it? Which is a great question because the PWHL really is the, you know, third, fourth women's league, we'll say, and obviously has taken off the
Mhm.
most.
Yeah, I think the league's growth has just been incredible, honestly. Just even from the first puck drop season 1, we had so many fans at all the games, like breaking so many records that have been up for so long. And I think it just showed how hungry the community was for women's hockey and more of it. And we're continuing to beat those numbers. Like
Yeah.
everywhere we go, we're doing the takeover games and like we're in these new markets. Like they were just in Dallas, Texas the other week and they had 8,500 fans in Dallas, Texas. Like that's huge. Like I know, you know, Blower Bowl was filled. They were loud there. They were excited. Um, so I just think it's just incredible what we've done. I think it's huge for the little boys and little girls to see that women can be in that space and that it's available to them. And they haven't known a life without that. And I think that's really cool. Like all of us have known that. Like we never had that space to look up to. And so now all these little girls can. And I think it's important for the little boys as well to see what girls can achieve.
Yeah, I think Sophia is gonna sum that up a little bit. So her question was there an aha, like this is it moment where you realized that women's hockey was truly, growing? Like, that you saw the moment, like, oh, this is for real now. I mean, other than signing a contract, maybe. What was your aha moment?
Yeah, I can be specific on this one.
Okay, sorry. Honestly, one of the biggest pinch me moments for me was the home opener for Ottawa season 1. The fans, it was a sold out game, and they were all there for on ice warm-ups. Like, so loud, cheering the whole time. I remember my hands were like, I was shaking during on ice warm-ups. Like, I've never been nervous for on ice warm-ups. There was just something different about the energy in the rink and the feeling of accomplishment. Like, we had gone 2-3 years of not playing in a real league to fight for this league. And then so to see it come to fruition and to see it received so well and so excited was just incredible, and no words can even describe it, honestly. And that was my aha moment for sure.
Well, would that be fair to say that's the glass ceiling shattering in that moment for you? Like,
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And that now the question is like, well, how much higher can we go? Right. That's pretty, you gave me chills talking about that, Hayley. That's really good. These questions are perfectly rolling into one another. So Aubrey, who's 13, says, it's a great question to follow up. Does it feel different stepping on the ice as a professional hockey player compared to before being a pro? And I think we just have to give a little context here. So before you became professional, you had played for Team USA. You'd also played Division I college. So I think there's actually 3 different Hayleys in that question, right?
Yes, there definitely are. It's, because I also was in the pro league before this pro league came to be, the NWHL. And I was with the Buffalo Buttes. And that was special in itself because it was my hometown. However, if you were to compare what our pro standards were then to what we have now, it's not even like near the same level. Like, they did their best, but truly now, the feeling of going on the ice as professional athletes was immensely different.
Right.
I think just with the infrastructure, the support of the league in itself and the community surrounding us was so much bigger. And I think just women's sports movement in general has gotten so much larger in the last few years. And so you can really feel that behind us a lot more, I think, than you did I was with the Buttes in 2018. And I don't think, women's sports were as popular as they are now.
Yeah. I always like to say that it's funny when you look at the progression, because the NWHL had to exist for the PWHL to exist.
Exactly.
Right? And before that, like, women had to have a fair shake in women's Division I and Division III sports. And then before that, 25 years ago, women had to be in the Olympics. Like, I still think, I mean, I think people forget that women's hockey Olympics started in 1998, right? It's like, it actually hasn't been that long.
Yep.
Right. So from that year till now is amazing when you think about it. It's, amazing stuff. So another great answer there, Hayley. So you're doing great with these questions. We need you to do good.
Hayley, so this is crossing the blue line. I don't know if that must be a defenseman, I hope, but
at cross the blue line.
Asking question. But Hayley, can you just say, you Hayley Scamurra, the Olympian, the pro, and also you have Hayley the person, right? Every player lives with that dual identity. I think, we even as hockey players, we talk about it on the show all the time. Like, you can't just be a hockey player. You're a person and a player. And I think, crossing the blue line has a good question here. That the person behind the titles, to stay grounded and in control of your direction. Like, how do you do that? How do you keep that groundedness of being the athlete and also going home and saying, hey, listen, I'm a big deal, like and then kind of duality of that relationship.
Great question. I think I tend to focus on things outside of hockey whenever I'm home. I try to do other things that I enjoy doing, spending time with family, puzzling. I'm currently doing one that's driving me crazy right now, but I do have fun with it. Exploring the city. I'm in Montreal right now, so kind of exploring whenever I can explore. And I think all of that kind of helps you stay grounded because you realize there's so much more outside of hockey. and reminding yourself of that you're more than just a hockey player, because it can take up a lot of your identity, because it's all I do. It's my job. Every single day I'm playing hockey. And so I don't lose sight of that either, but also just remembering how grateful I am that this is my job and I get to do this for a living is incredible.
Yeah, I think Crossing the Blue Line had a follow-up question that I actually would have asked, even if it wasn't the question they asked. But do you have a mental ritual that helps you clear away everyone else's version of who you are? Like, is there anything specific that you do to kind of separate your lives a little bit?
I tend not to really think about what other people think about me. If I did that, I think I'd be having a tough time kind of dealing with the intricacies of being a professional athlete. I go internal and kind of see how I'm feeling, about how I'm playing, about how I'm feeling outside of hockey and things like that. And I also turn to family and friends and go to them whenever I need support. But yeah, I wouldn't say I worry about what other people are thinking, truly.
And family and friends are always a good humbler anyway. So, right.
Yes.
Haley, I'll ask this one as a follow-up, and then we're through the questions for this episode. We often talk about the alter ego when it comes to stepping on the ice. And this is a compliment I pay you. It's funny is that, when we see you on this show, when I see you weekly, you're always smiling, so bright and just happy. And then I watch you play ice hockey, and that is a different Hayley. Okay. And what's funny is yesterday we were texting back and forth, and, there's this Team USA picture of you where you're very intensely staring at the camera. And I'm like, that's hockey Hayley. Like that's you as a hockey player. And you actually joked back, like, that's so intense, like almost like it wasn't you.
Yeah.
Right? But can you talk a minute about, look, the alter ego is still you. Don't get me wrong, but is it a flip switch for you? I mean, like, where you're at in your career, I know you can just turn it on now. But can you talk to me a little bit about that metamorphosis of, probably happens when you step in the rink, right? But you go from being, we'll say, podcast Hayley to hockey Hayley, right? What is that process like? Or is there a ritual with that, right?
Funny enough, honestly, I stay pretty chill off the ice as well. Like, I'm having fun. We're playing sewer ball. I don't know if you guys know that game with, like, soccer. And like chatting in the locker room, things like that. I would say, to be honest, it really turns on for me maybe once, like, all my equipment is on and I'm in the locker room. And then, like, on the ice, my goal is to always, like, make contact as quickly as possible, because that will help you, like, ease any nerves you might have, or it just gets you involved in the game kind of right away. And especially with my game, like, I am a very physical player, for those who don't know.
They should find out.
I love battling. I love, especially checking right now with the pro league, super fun. But it's so important to make, like, that first contact. It just gets you in the game right away. And for me, it helps me get in that mentality as well, as, like, they're not my friends on the other side. Like, I don't care who it is, you're going to get hit if you have the puck, kind of thing. And that's my game. And that's how I get the energy going for my whole team as well. When you do make those hits, the whole bench gets excited, right? So just remembering those little things helps switch that little alter ego Hayley on the ice.
Do you think on ice Hayley would be a good podcaster?
No, because I don't like to, like, I only think of it in terms of chirping other people. So I guess that's, I would never be a chirper. I don't talk when I'm on the ice. I only, like,
no, you got a job to do.
Go, But I'll chat on the bench. So I guess I could be, like, a bench podcaster, but as soon as I'm on the ice, no talking.
Listen, Mike and I will tell you this. If you're podcasting on the bench, your career's not got much time left. Just don't talk. Keep talking on the ice with your physicality. That's the way to do it. So, audience, you can see it. Like, I'm sure you want to hear about her as a pro now and what it's like to be a pro, but you're going to have to wait for the second half of this mailbag episode, which will be coming out soon. I want to say to the audience, and Hayley, you can comment on this too, just tremendous questions. Sometimes we put these things out and, what's your favorite type of bubble gum? You don't know what you're going to get, but every question we got is really good. Yeah. So bravo to you, the audience, for doing this. We'll have to do it again in the future. I'll tell you what, if Mike and I went out there and said, hey, what questions do you have? They wouldn't be this good. All right. They'd be like, why do you change the jerseys on your background? It wouldn't be anything good. So that's going to do it for this edition of Our Girls Play Hockey. Hayley, any closing comments? Again, not our typical type of episode.
No, that was just incredible. I loved all the questions. They were so in depth and curious and excited. You could just feel it, right? And we really appreciate you guys listening, and just always feel free to ask questions. We'd love to answer.
I love it. Mike, any final thoughts?
Now, if you're one of those girls listening right now, get in your journal, write down your questions. Every time you have a question come up, write it down there, and you can save it for the next one.
Yeah, we got to be careful. We still have to have guests on this show every once in a while. So. All right, for Hayley, for Mike, I'm Lee. This has been a great edition of Our Girls Play Hockey. Remember, if you do have questions, you can always email us directly, team@ourkidsplayhockey.com, or use the link accompanying this episode in the show description. You can text us right to us, or wait for Hayley to put another post out and just comment and message away. You guys have a great time. Have a great time playing hockey. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.